All right, here we go with another podcast. This is Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, or today, actually, this is a morning podcast. I'm talking to Kristy Williams and Chuck Woods. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. I met Kristy a few years back, probably at the Tennessee State Convention. I can't remember where it was. And I met Chuck not long ago. I think it was at a school I was at. I'm not really sure, but we'll figure all that out when we start talking. So they have a good history in square dancing. And so I'm going to let them tell you where it all started from. So first of all, Kristy, Chuck, how are y'all?
Great.
How are you doing, Charlie?
Very good, very good. So what we're going to do, since I've got both of you right there on the same screen, when I throw stuff out or y'all want to talk about it, wherever y'all want to go with it, have at it. So when I say, hey, I tell everybody I talk to, I'm like, hey, where are you from? Where did this start for you? So y'all can just bounce off each other, whatever you want to do. So we'll start with ladies first. Kristy, where are you from? Where'd you get started? Where are you born and raised, and where are you now?
Well, I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, and I traveled really, really far from home, and now I live in New Albany, Indiana, which is not the farthest I've lived from home. I actually, for about 13 years, lived in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, which is about 50 miles south of Louisville.
Okay.
So I moved to New Albany in June of 22 when Chuck and I moved in together.
Okay.
So Chuck and I have been together, about a year and a half now, I guess,
Right.
A year or so. Yeah. So I've lived in Louisville most of my life, except for that 13-year stint.
Okay.
What would you, Chuck?
I'm also a native of Louisville, but I did live in Texas for like 10 years.
Okay.
And I lived in California for 3 years. So returned to Louisville in the mid 90s. And I don't know, it's a great place to live. Moved to New Albany in June of last year, and we love it there. It's a little slower, a little calmer than the big city life in Louisville.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
We can watch it from afar.
Yeah.
I spent about a week or so in Louisville and did all the tourist stuff with the baseball bats and went and saw a game and all that stuff. So and drank quite a bit of whiskey. But so I've spent a little time there, very little time.
No, you drank bourbon.
or bourbon, yes. My brother asked me last night what the difference was, and I said it's where it's made. So I should have known that before I spit it out. So for both of you, Kristy, I glanced at your Facebook page a few minutes ago when I got to my son's house. Where did your square dancing start? I think it's at elementary school. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, when I was in third grade, I was asked to be part of our maypole dance.
Okay.
And we had a May Day, and it was fifth grade. Sorry. No, third grade. In third grade, we were invited to be part of our May Day. Okay. And I had the teacher invited us to do square dancing. And I have no idea to this day I'm assuming she was a dancer. No, she was not a caller, just from what I know now. But she there was just 8 of us, 4 boys, 4 girls. Right. We all had our cootie shots because, third graders don't want to touch each other at that age, And she taught us a singing call. And it was, I remember this record to this day. I can still sing it in my head. It was Inky Pinky Farley Boo. And she put that on. She taught us the moves, and we danced to it. And then we learned a second one. I do not remember the second one. And on May Day, we danced in the parking lot. She actually ended up with 2 squares. Wow. And the 2 squares danced together, and I fell in love with it. And then that was it. It was over with. And I just figured it was just some fluke I would never be able to do again. I went all the way through life into the time I was 17. I was working in a buffet. I was a cashier at a buffet, and the dancers came in all dressed up in their frillies and were cashing in to come in. And I'd be like, and I would tell them how great they looked and everything. And best kept secret, guys, if you're out there and somebody compliments you on anything, says anything, talk about it. Because if one of them had said, thank you, why don't you come to lessons? I'd have been there in a heartbeat, because the people out there that want to be part of this think that it's something they can't be.
Right.
I had no idea. absolutely no idea that I could be a part of square dancing when I was 17 years old. I thought it was some complicated thing. You had to go through years of lessons and, because you think dance, and I'm not a dancer at all in any way, shape, or form. And I just never dreamed that I could be a dancer one day. And so, yeah, I would have been dancing at 17 instead of waiting 10 years later to be part of it. So that's how I got started as a dancer. And it wasn't until years later that I decided I met my ex-husband at the time, and by sheer accident, opened up his closet and found all these lovely clothes that were sparkles and frillies, and because they used to really cancels and everything. And I was like, what in the world? And found one that had a rhinestone of a square dancer. And I was like, you're a square dancer. Oh my gosh. So we started talking about it, and it took a few years for him to get back into it again. And he says, well, if you're going to learn to dance, you're going to learn from West Dyer. And he took me in and taught me, learn to dance. And then everything else is from history from there.
So before we get into the calling part of it, Chuck, tell me about your entry into square dance.
Well, my parents started square dancing in the early 60s. So I was just a little guy, and I was the youngest, and I would go with them to square dance lessons, to square dances. And you know what it's like even today when a little kid's at square dancing, he's got like 49 grandparents, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody spoils the kids. So I loved it. I've always been musically inclined, so I liked the atmosphere. I just liked the songs, and before long, I could pretty much sing along with the callers. I didn't know what I was singing. I was singing what they're saying. I would sing, especially on the singing calls. I could just do the singing calls right along with the callers because I was just a little Polly Parrot, Okay. Yeah. So that was my introduction to it as a dancer. I didn't actually take lessons until I was in my teens. So 6, 7, 8 years later. And at the time I was taking lessons. It was probably 30 or 40 miles from my home, but the caller lived in Louisville as well. And he would stop by and pick me up, take me with him on the way to lessons down in New Haven, Kentucky. And we would ride along and talk about square dancing or what have you. And, we go through the lessons and we talk about square dancing on the way back. So, there's another connection that some of my roots come from there. It was, that was Aaron Morrison, who's a kind of a legendary caller from the Kentucky area that I was riding down. And he's the one that taught me to dance. So, danced a year or two, and, teenager, didn't stick with it for very long, but I never really forgot, and then started dancing again after my oldest son was born when we lived in Texas, and again danced for a few years. And then I think our second son was born, and then we were too busy, and then we moved to California, and then got back into square dancing probably around 1999 or 2000, when my dad was looking to get back into it after my mother passed away. He was looking for something to do, so we all went and took lessons and got back into it then. So never had any thoughts of becoming a caller at that, Right. At that point.
So at some point, both of you decided to be callers because you're both square dance callers. So Kristy, how long has that been going on? When did you start it, and what kind of influences some of those callers out there that might have talked to you about it?
Well, my story is a little different than most, because I really did not have a desire to be a caller at first. I'm a singer. I like to sing. I never really had gotten up and done singing before, really. But I was asked to do the national anthem at the kickoff dance for the Nationals when it was in Louisville in 2010. And then after we did that, I was invited to do the part of the show for the fashion show at the Nationals, at the actual Nationals. And as that was building, they had asked me to do that with West Dyer again. And they kind of wanted to take a different turn with it, make it kind of a comedy show. Okay. And they had the elegance of the fashion show, and in between they would do these little comedy skits. It was really great. It was really funny. And so we got together to practice these couple songs we were writing to go along with the theme. And I went and practiced with him one day, and we finished practicing, and practicing with Wes is hilarious, but anyway, that's another whole story. And I left our 10-minute practice for 2 songs, and on the way home he calls me and he says, "Hey," and I said, "What?" And he goes, "You ever thought about being a caller?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you ought to." And I said, "Wes, I've got too many hobbies right now." And he goes, "Well, quit them." And you see who won.
Okay.
And I did. I did. I thought about it. He talked to me about it a little bit, and we talked about it a little bit. And he said he'd work with me, and he did. He had a little collar school coming up, and he had a collar school with 3 girls,
Okay.
3 females in it, which he'd never had before. It was a new thing for him. So he taught 3 women how to call there, and I was one of them. And that's kind of where it started from. And I did. I quit all the other hobbies
Wow.
and the rest of my life.
Okay. And so it's been a pretty good road for you now since then. Absolutely. Like I say, because we ran into each other a few years ago, probably Facebook's where it started. And then I think it had to be Tennessee, because I don't get much further than that usually, unless it's a national convention. What about you, Chuck?
Started calling in 2018.
Okay.
Wes Dyer decided he was going to have a caller class. And just like Kristy, I like to sing, like to dance, enjoy dancing. So I thought, well, maybe I'll give this a try. I'd probably be okay at this. So he was starting a class. It was almost exactly a year, or exactly 5 years ago. It was in April of 2018. So I was like, give it a try. Went to the class. There were 2 others that are both still calling, that were in that same class. Kind of went through that process and picked it up pretty quickly. I think because I had been around square dancing all my life, that it to some degree, as much as it can, maybe came naturally, with the timing and knowing what moves fit together and
Right.
what flows. Not that I have had perfect flow, not that I have perfect flow now, but it's probably I had a little bit of an advanced start over most folks understanding that part of it. And just
Everybody hated him.
I was going to say, man, too, I didn't realize it was just 2018 for you, because I would have never suspected you've been in it for 5 years, going on 5 years.
When he gets done with this, I'm going to tell you my version of this story when he gets done.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, so it was 5 years ago, but there's COVID. There's an asterisk in there because we were down for 14 months, so it's really not even quite 4 years now, and suddenly it's like we were just talking about it. It's 7, 8, 9 dances a month between the 2 of us, not counting conventions and weekends. So it just sort of goes crazy.
Yeah.
But I love it. I enjoy it, and pretty much calling in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and then conventions. So it takes you to Tennessee or wherever the national might be, what have you.
Okay.
When he was going through his collar school, Wes was going to try to teach me to start mentoring callers.
Right.
He was trying to work on the method. So I went to that. I didn't know him from Adam at the time. And I went there to that collar class, and I was sitting there next to Wes. And if you know Wes Dyer at all, he has a certain way that he likes to sit. It's this kind of slouch in a chair, legs stretched out, chewing on a toothpick, arms crossed. And it's just the way he always sits. And he was sitting there in a chair like that. And I'm sitting next to him, and I'm watching Chuck move people in a square to patter. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm evaluating like he's been calling for 3 years. I'm like, wow, his flow's good. His timing is good. He sounds good. His chant's good. I'm thinking to myself while I'm watching him move, and it just suddenly dawned on me, he's been doing this 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I just stopped, and I turned around, looked at Wes, and I went, how the heck is he doing that? And Wes is like, I don't know. And I looked for a couple more seconds, and I turned around and looked, and I said, I hate him. And he goes, me too. That is a true story.
Yeah, because it certainly is not easy from the start. And I'll tell you that, because still, we still all go through it, trying to figure certain things out and seeing it before it sets up. So that is impressive. So you said it's Wes Dyer. I've never heard of him. Are there any? I mean, so you now, Chuck, we did meet at a school, didn't we? Where did I
We
meet
did,
you?
right? I think it was the Evansville. Yeah, GSI in Evansville, Nashville.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so I knew it was just a little while back, and but I thought, well, it had to be a school. So because I certainly don't get up in that area too much to call. So with the callers with Wes Dyer, any other callers that you kind of patterned yourself after, any kind of influences or anything?
I've had a ton. You know, when I was coming up, you know, especially as a female, it's a little different. But I was when I was learning, I had a lot of people just embrace and support. It's amazing. Mark Patterson, Pam Courts, Travis Cook. The list is endless. Jack Platties. Everybody, just about any caller in my area, and the few outside of it. Daryl McMillan. I've had opportunities to be on stages with people that I really feel like I didn't deserve. It was just to be standing next to them is pretty phenomenal. Makes you feel really good. They trust me, believe in me, support, and it makes you feel really good. Builds your confidence, and I don't know, the information, gene record. Information that I have gotten from them, feedback I've received from them, I can't trade it for nothing. I've sat down with them, talked to them. They've pushed me out in front and stood next to me on the stage and helped me when I've gotten lost. Pushed me forward when I was scared, and given me encouragement when I felt like going behind the curtain and throwing up. It's just, yeah, I've had a lot of people, a lot of callers, I'll say specifically callers that have had my back all along the way. It's amazing, the support system I've had, and the opportunities I've given to get up there, grab your mic, get up there and go for it.
I will say, at this point in life and all the things that I've done and things like that and experience, the caller community as a whole could not be more supportive. I can't imagine another group of people. If you try and equate it to athletics, if I walked into a room full of people trying to make a professional baseball team, there'd be a couple that would help you out and give you a couple tips, but there's some that's going to be like, that guy's taking my job. I got nothing to do with him. And I've never seen that, you know, on a mass when I go to conventions or schools, or I mean, schools, they're going to help you. But if you go to a convention, you see somebody you've never seen except on YouTube or something, and you're like, hey, man, I heard you do something. You almost have to say, all right, that's enough. I was just kind of wondering about that call, because they will just keep talking and giving you tips. And hey, man, here's my phone number. Call me if you have any questions. So couldn't be more supportive. Chuck, any influences for you?
Well, it started a long time ago with those, in the early days when I was just a kid. So Bill Claywell was a caller from Kentucky. He recorded a number of songs and had some gold records or whatever they had back then. There was a point when you could really sell a lot of square dance records because they were actual records, and there were lots of callers and a lot of people dancing.
So we had a little internet issue, but when we were left off, Chuck, you were telling us about your influences. Talk about that.
Right. Yeah. Early on, being 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, impressionable. I think it's a lot like, you have those early music impressions, is like who influenced your music. Was it the Beatles, or was it Elvis, or Jim Croce, or whatever? With square dance calling, it was that way with me. Bill Claywell was who I grew up listening to with my parents for a long time. And then more recently, in terms of teaching me and giving me opportunities, Joe Porritt, who is now in the process of retiring. He's the one that stuck a microphone in my hand and gave me a hunk of vinyl and said, here, go home and practice this and come back when you're ready. And like a week later, I was there calling Fast Train to Georgia or something like that. And he was like, man, you ought to give this a try. So that's when it influenced me to start to Wes Dyer School. Okay. And then, of course, Wes Dyer, through that schooling process, the mentoring process, and then the continuing education, Kristy being my mentor, and Travis Cook, who is a bit of a mentor, but then teaching me to dance and call advance at the same time, which is a fun challenge.
Sure.
Especially for Travis.
So you've got both a few years for sure, Kristy some more, but and I get this answer, but I have to ask for both of you: memory, sight, module. How do you get through a dance typically?
Yeah, I used to think I was strictly sight, but I've come to learn that it's I'm all of it really in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I think all of us really are. Yeah, I would say sight predominant, but we all use modules, we all use memory, we all use all of it in some way, shape, or form. But yeah,
same for me. It's mainly sight. I'm most comfortable when I'm just sight calling. I start to get a little bit nervous if I've got a module that I'm trying to insert or remember, if it's something specific,
right?
Not just a group of moves to move people around that flows well. And then when you're at the end of it, you can cite a resolve. I mean, if it's a module that's a stir or that's got a really cool ending, do this and you're home, surprise ending in your home, but leaving out that right and left through and they're crossed or something like that. So that I start to get nervous a little bit when I do that. So I'm more comfortable when I'm sight.
Okay. I'm going to ask you about some funny stories, but I have to say this first. I just saw a video not long ago on Facebook of the two of you and Travis, and y'all were doing All About That Bass. And outstanding. For anybody who watches, listens to this podcast, if you go out and you search, whether it be Chuck, Kristy, Travis, you got to watch All About That Bass. It was fantastic. Kristy, you were phenomenal in the vocals on it. I thought about doing it once, but I was like, nope, never going to do that one. So very good.
That's how they all felt too. So,
so outside, that wasn't a funny story. That was an enjoyable tip to watch. Give me something that's happened to y'all along the way in your calling that kind of sticks out as something you like to tell people. Funny stories, whatever.
A funny story calling. I think my favorite would be there's a particular club that I called for, and it was down in kind of southern Kentucky area, and they had taken us to they were having a little trouble finding halls. This kind of post-COVID area, and one of the places they took us to, and we just referred to it as the honky tonk because that's what it reminds me of. And it's an old dark bar, pretty much. Okay. And then we were there in the daytime, so it was a daytime dance in the afternoon. But once you close the doors of the place, I mean, it was pitch black in there. I mean, it was very, very dark, and it was like walking back into the 80s when you walked into this place.
Oh, nice.
There was like ashtrays on the tables and the wood tables, and they had done a really good job inside of it of kind of customizing. They rebuilt the bathrooms and everything was really neat. You could tell they had a live band there. It's a happening place at nighttime for that area. Nice. I guarantee you it's a partying place. But it was for square dancing. It was a little tough. They had a great dance floor, but where I was standing, it was very dark, so it was very hard to see the dancers. And I had two squares. And so I had one square was actually Travis was there with his father and his stepmother. She wasn't a stepmother at the time, I don't think yet. No. But they were there and they were dancing with us and some other people with them and Dorothy, of course. And then the other square was there and they had to leave because they were on their way to a dance and they stopped by for a little while and danced for like a half the dance. And then they left. So I just had one square and I was like, okay, well, So there was a man, elderly man, way up in years that was kind of walking around very slow, and I was a little nervous about him just because he was just kind of wandering around on his own, and I was like, okay. And at one point, so one of the things that Wes Dyer taught me was always be prepared for distractions, and I can't tell you how invaluable that's been from from somebody come up and talking right beside my ear to the Michael Sullivan Pavilion with a thunderstorm coming in and rain going up my skirt with curtains blowing in front of me and continuing to walk patter, to me and other distractions that have happened while I was calling. And this would definitely be one of them, because if you ever heard Wesley Fenton's box story with him throwing a box at you, he did the same things with me. We knocked chairs over and stuff like that while I was calling to teach me to stay a little ahead of while there was distractions. And this gentleman, while I was calling and I'm on the floor, literally walked past me like no further than I am from the screen on the computer, looked right in my face while I'm in the middle of my patter and says, "You're doing a great job." And walked right past me. I'm like, "Thanks." Continue on. And then a couple minutes later, I'm continuing on, and he walks past me again and looks at me and smiles, and it's like right between me and the dancers. I'm like, "Okay, thank you, sir." But the kicker to this later on was as we were leaving the dance after everybody left, we stopped walking out the door. Sorry, Chuck. We're walking out the door, and he's telling us we turns out he's the owner of the place.
Okay.
That's why he was kind of wandering around, because it's his place. And he was telling us that he was in the Korean War. So he proceeds to tell us about his days in the Korean War, which, thank him for his service. It's amazing. And then he said something along the lines of, what did he say to you?
Something about us old guys.
Us old guys have to be careful or something. I don't know. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice, Chuck."
I was like, "Thanks." Like I fought in the Korean War or something.
So yeah, we had a good laugh. The lady who had set up the dance, I think she knew him well enough to come in. She's like, let's go. She helped us out the door. So,
yeah, we were trying to get away. We gotta go. We gotta go.
Followed us out and continued to talk to us when we got in the car. But and treasure people like that. I mean, they're just that's
a really good story. That's a good one.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I would have told him. I would have been like, what the hardest part of square dance calling is? It's the timing, and like your timing, walking up and just talking in my face. And it is distracting. Like if I'm on a stage if I'm not raised up, if a lot of places I go, I'm just on the floor. And obviously for people who know me, I am not going to be the tallest person in the room when I go to a dance. And so I'm keying on, if I have 1, 3, or 5 squares, the folks that are right in front of me is pretty much where I'm going to be locked in, and somebody will walk right in front of me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And because I'm focused. All right, I got to get her. She's coming this way, and then all of a sudden a dude walks by me. I'm like, "What? Could you not go around the back?" So anything for you, Chuck?
Charlie, I feel you. I put 4 heels.
I'm like, if my number one couple is over 5'6", I won't see the rest of y'all. So just know that I'm going to be watching for them. So, what about you, Chuck? Anything?
Oh yeah. I've been calling maybe 6-7 months. So 6-7 months out of Wes's caller school. I did go to the GSI caller school in Kansas City. June. We finished up in June. Went to the caller school in Kansas City in June, and I guess I had called a dance or two, maybe. Started booking a few things here and there. Some folks heard me in Kansas City and booked me to call a dance in Lexington, but it hadn't happened yet, so it was on the calendar. But a friend of ours that went through the school with me, he'd been calling the same amount of time as me. He was new to square dancing. He was new caller, Wes Fenton. He's our bass guy and all about that bass. He was on stage. So he was the one that's just, he's like a machine. He's like a bass machine, man. He's boom, 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 boom. He had booked a dance up in his area in Central Ohio, Greenville, Ohio, because he dresses in black all the time. And he's a big Johnny Cash fan. And he's got that deep voice, and they had created a dance for him at his home club, and it was going to be the all black dance. He was going to do all Johnny Cash music. Okay. So they planned this late in the year of 2018. Well, he had a massive heart attack, December 23rd of 2018. He had the Widowmaker heart attack, but he's such a tough guy that he's like, he just
shake it off. Okay.
He shook it off. It took a little while.
Yeah.
Like he was in the hospital 40 days or something like that, but he shook it off. But they didn't cancel the dance. So in January or February, the dance was in February. he called me and said, "Hey, could you fill in for this all black dance for me up here in Greenville, Ohio?" I was like, "Sure, I'd love to." So went up there and got there and was all excited about it. And then people started rolling in, and I realized that when they said it was an all black dance, that everybody was going to dress in black. I mean, everybody. So I knew two people there, Wes and his wife.
That is I know where you're going with this. That's a rough note right there.
They were not even dancing yet, right? So now I'm starting to panic. I'm like, I don't even know how to, I don't know what to do here. Well, I got lucky, and this couple comes in and they're wearing navy blue. I guess they didn't own any black. I don't know, navy blue as close as they could get. I'm like, oh, you're my heroes. I said a prayer to the square dancing gods, and sure enough, they got in the front. There were like 8 squares there, two wide, 4 deep. They got one of the front squares. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And so I start calling, I'm 5 seconds in, head square through, and the guy pulls by with the right and turns left. And I was like, well, there we go. There went the navy blue couple. I'm lost.
Oh, God, I can't imagine. We've got a couple clubs down here that they all dress alike, a whole square. And although I know them by face, when I'm just calling, I'm looking for typically colors, shirts, pants, skirts, whatever. And no, that's horrifying, especially if you don't know anybody. I was talking to somebody not long ago, and I said, like, at a national convention or a state convention, if it's not my state and I don't know many people, it's really just memory. And I go, I'm immediately square through 4. I've got the corner, and we just stay in there and move around, because to try and match up people, especially, and I was telling Sean Butler, I said, I'll go in and I'll write red shirt, and then the corner color. And then I realized that halfway through my tip or my patter, there's a 3rd red shirt in there. And I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do? So, okay.
I had there's a club that's kind of a singles club. They mix up a little bit, and that I call for a lot in Cincinnati. And I had a tip where I had my primary and my secondary picked out and everything, and I was fine with it. And I'm grooving along, and I'm getting ready. I get ready to resolve, and I pair up my primary, and then I'm like going, wait a minute, that's not right. And I realized that, because I hadn't paid attention to the other half of the square at all, that I think it was my primary man, his wife apparently was dancing on the other side of the square, and she's dressed just like him, but they weren't dancing together. And I was like, oh my gosh. So when they do that kind of stuff, it kind of makes things a little tricky.
It does.
Yeah.
I've got a few couples that can dance both parts, and halfway through a tip of pattern, they'll just swap and they'll start and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and then I realize what they've done. So dancers can be just as fun as callers sometimes when it comes to messing with you. I try and mess with dancers sometimes, but they will turn it around on you in a second. So, and we talked all about that bass. Kristy, what's your favorite singing call? If you came to my club and I said, do a tip, what are you going to pull out?
Currently, right now, is probably All That Jazz.
Okay.
That's my big one right now, that I'm having a lot of fun. I like singing that one. It's fun. It's just, it's got a big, powerful note at the end, and it's crowd pleaser. Everybody likes singing it back. I like to turn down the music in the middle of them tags and hear them sing it back. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Chuck, what about you, buddy?
It kind of changes. It's continued to change, but I think right now there's a couple of them that are my favorites, and one of them is actually the 72nd national song, Honeysuckle Heaven. I love calling that song that Scott Bennett created for the 72nd national. We've actually done a couple of different parodies to that song. Okay. We're not to make fun of anyone, just changed it because it's about the nationals, and I liked it so much. I was like, what am I going to do with this once the nationals are over and I can't sing about the nationals anymore? I want to keep singing this song. So we changed some words, and we've got one for Indiana now, the Hoosier Heaven or whatever it's called. We called it last night Sunnyside. So that's one. The other one is Big Boss Man. Wade Driver tune.
I don't think I've heard that. Okay.
really, really cool song. I heard, I think first time I heard it called, Ronnie Langley did it at Tennessee. And I was like, man, I got to get that record. And
How have I not heard that song if Ronnie Langley's done it?
yeah.
I talk and see Ronnie a lot. Big Boss Man. Okay, I'll go check that out.
Yeah, check that out.
So y'all are not at home right now. You're in a hotel room. Tell me about what you got going on. What in the recent past and the future dance wise? What are y'all doing?
We were in Quaker Town Shakers in Plainfield last night, and then tonight I'm up at
Westerville.
Yeah, Westerville Promenaders tonight, and this is a little north of Columbus. And then tomorrow we're going back to Indiana to the New Dancers Roundup.
Okay.
So we got a busy weekend back and forth. So.
Very nice. So y'all travel a pretty good bit calling?
Yes. Quite a bit.
Put a lot of miles on the cars.
Sure.
So we were zigzagging, from Central Ohio, Central Indiana, Central Ohio, back and forth a couple of times this weekend.
Okay.
Last weekend we had our first weekend event. It was down at Lake Cumberland, which is in the south part of Kentucky. It was really cool. We did it with Travis Cook and with Wesley Fenton. It was called Swing Through Spring, and we had a lot of fun down there. We had about 10 squares, which was huge for the first year, trying to do anything like that for us. So we were really excited about that. And a lot of neat things happened down there. We even had one young, good-looking couple that got engaged right on the dance floor.
Wow. Okay.
We were there.
Well, congratulations. Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I did that during a singing call. Marry You is the singing call. It's on Blue Star label. And I had done it. I'd been doing it 5 or 6 months to sort of
did a duet with him.
Yeah. To sort of numb her to because if I just popped it out brand new and started singing the song Marry You, she's gonna be like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I had to kind of numb the
numb her to
the effects of it.
Nice setup. Very good.
Yeah.
Talk about distractions, because I think about that. Wes taught us, call through distractions. It amazes me that he got through patter before to be able to do that.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Wow.
That is very good. That's a great story. And you talked about it on my podcast. Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is very nice. Well, the distraction has me now. I forget what I was going to ask y'all. So before we started recording, you told me y'all were doing a weekend, and it was y'all's first weekend. So tell me about that. So I guess it's going to be coming up next year about this time. Tell me about the weekend y'all are talking.
Well, the cool thing about that, this was originally going to be started out. Wes Stargan and Mark Patterson had decided to start this weekend that is at Lake Cumberland State Resort Park at Lure Lodge. Apparently there's 2 of them, we found out.
Yeah.
Somebody was trying to get there that weekend, and they were planning to do it, the COVID hit.
Okay.
And then when they were going to start it up again, when they were able to do it again, unfortunately Mark decided to retire, and then Wes passed away the month after that.
Okay.
So they both, we just went to bed, and so Wesley Fenton decided that he wanted to carry this forward, go ahead and do it, because thought it was a good idea. And they thought it was a good idea, apparently. So he contacted Beth, who was Wes's girlfriend, and Mark, and said, "Hey, do you mind if we go forward with this?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So he did all the legwork, got it all started, contacted them, and said, "Hey, let's do this weekend." And contacted the 3 of us, Travis and Chuck and me, and said, "Let's do this weekend." And we're like, "Hey, we're in." So we found another date and set it up, and we started advertising it, and we started we want to really make this fun. We want to do all kinds of silly stuff and be goofy and stupid like we usually are. And that's what we did. So we practiced some fun singing calls, like All About That Bass, and some other stuff we've done. We've done the acapella, the Misbehavin'. We've done acapella before, and we did it again there. Just some different things just to make it fun. Did some silly after party stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and just did a lot of different things we wanted to do with it, just to make it fun and different. And so now we had a good turnout for it. We're really excited about the turnout. And it is coming up next year. Right now, we've got 5.
Yeah, we got 5, somewhere
5
between 5
seniors
and 6 already pre-registered.
Register for next year. Yeah.
So we're excited about it. They're coming back. That's good news when they sign up before they leave.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Back for next year. So that's always good news. That group of 4 of it, we started out by doing Misbehaving a cappella for whatever reason. I don't know whose idea it was, maybe Travis's, yours, that we wanted to do that song.
Well, it was kind of a conform. Yeah.
We wanted to do that song a cappella.
Right.
Okay. Well, it's a pentatonic song, right? So if you can't do it a cappella, why bother? So how many times did we practice?
So my lips were numb.
Yeah. Kristy and Travis have the toughest part because they've got the repetitive harmonies.
Okay.
Like the entire song. So
I'm lead vocals, so it's easy for me. It's just like me calling to a record. Yeah. And then Wesley's just doing that constant bass. Boom, boom, boom. You just got that constant bass.
Yeah, the machine. I think he's earning the nickname the Machine.
But I mean, we practiced, Wesley's 250 miles away from where we all live. Travis lives in the Louisville area, so we all live close. But to practice, we got together 5, 6, 7, 8 times to get that song. And we did it, I guess maybe at the 2019 Kentucky Festival first. It's the first time we ever performed it. And then we've done it a few times since then, but you can't just jump up and do it. You have to practice it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we've added other songs to the repertoire, and the latest one was all about that bass. And Kristy has always wanted to do, that's the song she's been wanting to do for a long time.
Years.
And Travis has always said, no, we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it. So we talked him into it this year. I got on board. It's like, yeah, it's a fun song. And the crowd loved it. I mean,
Yeah, no, I can see that. That was very good.
It's different. It's different. Anytime you do anything different.
It is. Different,
so. I like different.
It's a great song. That's something that y'all should definitely put into the rotation. Of course, now you don't always have the 4 of you, but it's something that y'all can.
By ourselves.
Oh, did you? Okay. I mean, it's something that y'all 2 could do together for sure.
Yep.
So what about your social media? Kristy, I know you have a website. Chuck, do you have a website?
I do.
You do? Okay. Well, Kristy, you go first. Tell me about all your social media, what you do, how people can find you and stuff.
Well, I have a website. First of all, it's kw.dance. And I call it kw.dance because a lot of people don't know how to spell Kristy. There's 300,000 ways to spell Kristy. So I just went with KW. That's safe. Also get confused with Pam Courts for some reason. A lot of people think I'm Pam, which is a tremendous compliment. But but so it's kw.dance. And then I have a Facebook caller page that's just for my calling, and it's Kristy Williams _square dance caller, I think. I may have to look it up. And then I have a personal page, and that's currently under Kristy Rutledge Williams. And you can find me at all 3 of those pages anytime. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, but I never use either one of those.
Gotcha. How about you, Chuck? What about Chuck?
Web page is chuck.dance, and that'll also link you to Facebook and YouTube videos and all sorts of things like that. I'm on Facebook, but just as under Chuck Woods, I don't have a callers page. On Facebook, but post a lot of videos on there from the weekends and from the fun things that we do, the silly things that we do.
Speaking of that that original Misbehaving video from the 19 convention is on there.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, there's only part of it on there, but yeah,
definitely
for the middle break.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to be in Alabama for the national convention, yeah?
Alabama?
Mobile.
Oh, Alabama, yeah.
That Alabama.
Yeah, that Alabama.
Yeah, we're gonna be there. We're gonna go down early.
Are you gonna do GSI school or not?
Not this year. Did it last year in Evansville. There's a place that we like to stay down there. That Kristy's got a spot in Fairhope, which is just across the bay from Mobile. Got a house over there that we like to stay at, so we're going to take advantage of the week and go down early and spend some time sitting on the water before we go call over in Mobile. So we're looking forward to that, and we're also going to be at Caller Lab in Reno in
I
a few
was
weeks.
going to ask you about that Color Lab. Yeah, I mean, I love the GSI schools, and mainly because I get to see people that I don't get to see all year. I was just talking to Ted Lazat a while back, and I said that's my favorite part of some of the schools. Granted, I get a lot out of the schools still at this point, and you always will. But getting to see these folks that are up in where y'all are, I rarely ever get up there to call for anything or even vacation. So I use it for that. Color Lab in Reno is going to be fantastic. I've never been to Reno in and of itself. So looking forward to going out there. I did look at the almanac, and I think it's going to be like 41 degrees. And I was like, come on. Every time I go to the desert, it's cold. It's ridiculous. I'd like one time to just go out there and go, this is a dry heat. But I don't get that. So you're going to be at Color Lab. You're going to be at the National Convention. Anything else y'all want to talk about dance-wise or anything?
Don't think we have anything else. Yeah, we're looking forward to all those. We've got lots planned between now and the end of the year. Some personal vacations. We're taking a cruise. We're going to get married, and we're going to go to Tennessee Convention.
Tennessee Convention, yeah.
Yeah, that's always.
Are you getting married on the cruise, or is that after the cruise? No. Okay.
No, we're getting married. Getting married in June.
Okay.
My mother's not doing well, so we want to try to
okay.
take her things so she can be there.
Okay.
But we're going to use we already had the cruise booked, so we're going to use the cruise kind of as our honeymoon. So it's a little down the line. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a not a goof up. There was a mix up, the wrong word, with the convention center where they hold the Kentucky State Festival, Kentucky State Convention, and they got the dates messed up at the convention center, so they had to flip the dates on the convention, and we had our cruise booked there. So we're going to miss the state convention for Kentucky because that's where our cruise is booked. Gotcha. And it's like, I have never missed a Kentucky State Convention, so that hurts a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
So, but I hope everybody goes to Kentucky State Convention because it's always a good time there in summer.
Yeah, I haven't made it to that one yet. Hopefully, probably not this year because I haven't planned it, but soon I can get up that way. I'm going to try and hit all the state conventions at some point in my life if I live long enough. But
I love state conventions.
Let's see. So we'll wrap it up on that, and this will come out in a few weeks. So some of the dances y'all talked about will have already come and gone, but you do have the future stuff. I'll see y'all both at Color Lab. Wouldn't miss that for the world. That's good stuff. Kristy, Chuck, it has been a pleasure. Success on y'all's trip you're on right now, and you're calling. Y'all calling tonight or tomorrow? Tonight. Okay.
Tonight. Yep.
Well, good luck with that.
Well, maybe tomorrow.
So for everybody listening, Kristy Williams, Chuck Woods, make sure I covered everything, travel, calling, recordings. Okay, I'm going to get away with that. You have recorded some songs. Tell me about that and what label it's on, Kristy.
Yeah, I did. I recorded one on Silver Eagle with Joe Goins.
Okay.
I know what you did last night.
Okay.
That was the first one I ever did. And then I recorded on Chic Records with Shauna.
Okay.
And I did 455 Rocket.
Okay.
And that's a great record. It's so fun to sing that song, call that song. Really, really enjoyed that.
Okay.
Those are my
I will give that a listen also. Well, I want to thank y'all both,
really
especially.
Opportunity.
Absolutely. Shauna's great. She was at a school I was at not long ago, and I love just sitting and talking to her about square dancing and outside of square dancing. She's a pleasure to be around.
She is amazing to work with.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank both of y'all for taking the time on y'all's vacation calling tour. I appreciate it. I will see y'all at Color Lab. This is Square Dance Callers Talking. I want to thank everybody again, Spotify, YouTube, like, follow, subscribe, all that business. And I will see y'all soon. Kristy, Chuck.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, y'all have a good trip, okay?
All right.
Thanks.
See y'all soon.